On the business battlefield in times of crisis summit, true and tested methods from successful military and combat veteran entrepreneurs. You're in for a treat. We have a couple of combat veteran entrepreneurs hosting, and we have 10 amazing entrepreneurs sharing their wisdom all day. It's live Saturday, April 11th. Glad you're tuning in, whether you're here inside the Zoom room registered for the event or watching on Facebook Live. So glad you could join us. And before we introduce our first speaker of the day, how about a couple of opening thoughts from Stephen and Lane? Stephen.
Yeah, well, I'm super pumped to get this rolling, especially our first guest. We had a last minute idea of putting this together to help our fellow humans, I guess you could say, get together. And we've heard a lot of fluff out there. We've heard a lot of, hey, you got to be positive, and you got to, this kind of stuff, which is great. And we all need that. But what are the actual strategies and tactics that we can use specifically to get through this crisis right now, whether it's through mind or in your business and your task and your skills? So we put together a star-studded, cast of those who know exactly what they're talking about. Our first guest, Chase Hughes, is going to dig into it really deep here in a second. He's all about mindset. He's going to let you tell you, Tom's you're going to introduce him in a second as well. But this is going to be fantastic. Really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it because military people, they have experience and a background to be able to deal with crisis, deal with uncertainty. And, it's almost a running joke that, there's so many jokes in the military, like hurry up and wait. There's these like moments of like being told what to do from the military, and then you're stuck not knowing what the next thing is. And so being able to deal with all this kind of stuff, not only physically and on the battlefield, but mentally, probably even more important. And to be able to share that experience and share how not only people that have been successful in the military, but also in business and really just, rocked their world, been able to affect a lot of positive change within their sphere of influence. And, these 10 people that we have today are just incredible, all different walks of life, all different perspectives, but all can benefit you if you just take it seriously. And I'm really excited about everything, that's going to happen today.
Hey, Tom, can you change to the gallery view? For some reason, it's not changing on Facebook.
Sure. How does that look? Is it broadcasting through good?
Got to give it a second. All right. Good stuff.
Fantastic.
All right. So you want to introduce Chase, Tom?
I am waiting. We are so excited to start this summit off with our first speaker. He has spent 20 years in service to the U.S. military as a Navy chief. Well, probably just the last few years as a chief. I'm guessing he worked his way there. And has been leading provider and creator of training designed to produce behavioral outcomes. Transitioned from the military and then began bringing the most cutting-edge training to bear on the most serious issues the United States faces today: terrorism, officer fatalities, and rebuilding community trust. He's America's leading behavior expert serving police, government, and special units. Trains teams in tactical behavior science with his groundbreaking skills. We're so honored that he's here. Welcome, Chase. Stephen, over to you.
All right, Chase. Thanks, brother, for stepping in the last minute. I know we sort of miscommunication there, so thanks for stepping in.
No worries, man. No worries.
Your voice is deeper than I remember, but okay.
He's got that radio voice.
Got that radio voice. So, real quick, the first thing that comes to mind when you think of COVID and coping with it, what is it?
Fear.
And so, and I have to say, I have it too. You wake up every day, it's new. What's going on today? What's going to happen tomorrow? Yeah. How the heck do we deal with that? Especially as business owners, how do we deal with that? Keep our mind straight and sort of keep fear at bay without pushing it away, because we have to face it, I believe, right?
Yeah, and that's a good thing. I mean, fear is good. Somebody who lives without anxiety or fear is what we call a psychopath. Like, I'm going to take your money, and I'm not concerned with the consequences.
Right.
So some fear is good. But one thing that fear does to everybody, and this is important to note, that fear increases our perception of the likelihood of negative events that they will occur.
Wow. Fear, say it again. Fear increases the likelihood. So
fear makes us think that the negative things we might think about are more likely to occur. The more fear we have, the more we're able to assume, or the more we assume that this is probably going to occur. And that probability increases as fear increases.
Because we, for lack of a better word, we create it, we manifest it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And fear makes us more predictable machines, which is why it's great for the media to spread some of this stuff, because it manufactures predictable human beings. But when we're forecasting, and our brain is a prediction machine, and if there's just a 2-word description of the entire brain, its entire job is to make predictions. But when we experience fear, anything that we might worry about, like something that may never happen, a drive-by shooting, my house catching on fire, fear makes us think those things are more likely to happen. So it's important to think about that. And obviously there's no vaccination for it, but just understanding that that is a thing that happens in everybody, that helps us to maybe realize that that might be happening to me or to anybody listening.
Okay, switching into second gear, how do we deal with that? Like, how do you stop it or deal with it or alleviate it or?
Yeah. The number one cause of depression, according to me, is unmet expectations.
Boom. Love it.
So we have an expectation in front of us and it's not met. So a lot of us 2 months ago, were thinking of all the meetings we're going to attend. I'm thinking of all the seminars I'm going to be doing around the entire country or around the world. And I've issued more than the value of my house in refunds just over the last few weeks. And that was a big transition for me because my expectations were not met. So we have to make the shift. And one of the ways, since we're all here in lockdown, is to plan ahead. So every evening, take a little note card, just a little 3x5 note card, which I do every evening, and write down, what am I going to do tomorrow? What are my priorities? Where am I locked in time? So what we're doing is forcing our brain to understand that I have expectations for tomorrow. Because this brain is 10 million years old. We just need to learn tricks to trick it into thinking that everything's okay. And it does become okay. But we have a schedule, and it's really, really important to stick to a routine at home. It's easy to get up and stay in your pajamas until 8 p.m. It's easy to sit there and eat cereal and not really have a schedule. But if you develop a schedule, just open Microsoft Excel today or Google Docs or Sheets, whatever it's called. Put a little schedule in there from 8 to 9 and even make it a blank one. And the night before you go to bed, sit there with a pencil and just write it out. So we're setting up expectations that we know will be achieved. And we're lowering depression. We're lowering that worry, anxiety, and fear starts going down.
Okay, so that's the practical side of it. People say, yeah, I know, you got to make a schedule and stuff. So what's that actually doing to our brain? Is it programming our brain differently so that we're actually creating new habits and firing new sort of, what do you call it, solenoids, brain waves, creating new brain waves so we would deal with fear better? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, so we're allowing our brain to do what it does best, and that's making predictions. So what we're doing is setting up something at the end of the day that says 8 a.m. I'm doing this, at 10 a.m. or 10:15 I'm doing this. And if there's one thing, I'm literally one of the brainwashing experts for Uncle Sam. And if there's one thing about brainwashing, the first step, if I was teaching a class on it, the first step is repetition. And
Right.
what we're doing is developing a habit is brainwashing technically. So what we're doing is doing this repetition on a repetitive basis. So that way, after we've got a couple of days under our belt, our lives smooth out. Everything becomes predictable because that's what our brains do.
Okay, awesome. And that makes sense. So let's say I start doing this, right? What are the results going to be besides smoothing out the curve? I guess you could say, to use the current lingo. But what are the results going to be? I mean, is it going to make me more productive? Is it going to make me, I don't know, make more money somehow? Is it going to make my business better? What are the results? Or, I mean, it's hard to say because everyone's different, but what in generality, what's going to happen to my business? What's going to happen to my productivity?
Just the act of planning will help you on a psychological level, but the physical part of planning really helps because it forces you to prioritize important things. So if I plan on working out or I plan on answering emails, that means that I think that is the important thing to do. And at the end of the day, that's where I didn't get stuck conducting research or something for my business and I'm stuck on YouTube for 6 hours or something happens similar to that. So we do get a lot more done and it forces us the night before to prioritize. And if I might deviate just a little bit, I think I've been studying human behavior for 20 years. I've published a best-selling book on it, but I would like to share my definition of discipline here today.
Oh, yeah.
That I think we have three selves. We have three humans that we have to deal with. We have to deal with a past tense version of us. We have to deal with a present tense, this version of us that's listening right now. And we have to deal with a future self. The moment that discipline becomes a reality in your life is when your present tense self prioritizes the well-being of the future self. So my priority is the future self. So the night before I go to bed, I'm opening my Keurig. I'm making sure there's water in it. I'm putting a coffee pot in there for myself in the morning. I'm putting a cup there. I'm laying out the outfit. I'm making sure the house is clean. I'm thinking about my finances of my future self. My priority is the future self, not me. Because if you think about it, every time you've been pissed off at your past tense self, I stayed up too late and I knew I had an exam the next day. I gaffed off and didn't research, and I knew that I had a meeting coming up. So instead, when we prioritize our future self and become a butler, we act like a butler, like I'm working for this rich person and I'm that person's butler, except that person is my future self. Everything set up, everything is made to order. So instead of being pissed off at my past tense self, now I'm feeling gratitude in reverse and care towards the future. So I'm grateful for the actions of my past tense self.
I love that. I've never heard that. That's incredible. We know everyone talks about, yeah, you got to care and you got to plan. It's always the practical or the psychological, but I love the points where you have practical, psychological, and that flow state kind of thing that you're putting yourself in, because that's basically what you're doing, right? You're flowing. Yeah. You're in a flow state. Yeah. You have that balance between past, present, and future. I actually never heard that before. That's incredible. That's like Jamie Wheel and Stephen Kotler stuff right there, man.
Yeah, and you know what? Y'all could ask my girlfriend. And some nights when I'm sitting here in the kitchen getting ready for the next day, I actually say out loud, Chase is really going to love this. I'll say it out loud. That is my thought process. Like, that's another person, because I've gotten pissed off at my past tense self as if it was another person. I can think of my future self the same way.
But where does the discipline come from to do that? Seriously. Because, you're like, I mean, the hardest thing I think that I ever had to do was when I was suicidal and depressed and stuff, was getting up just to do anything. Like, if someone's in that position right now, what's that step to take to get to that point?
Yep. Just tonight, just one time, just tonight, before you go to bed, set everything up. It takes maybe 5-10 minutes. No, not a big deal. Calendar, set up the coffee machine or the, whatever you're going to make for breakfast, set something up as if you had a butler. And when you wake up, you're going to be like, wow, this is actually pretty badass. And it becomes an addictive process to where it's not just like I'm setting out a coffee cup for myself, or I'm not just doing the dishes so my future self is happy and doesn't have to do it. Once I get into this habit, now it bleeds over into how I invest money and whether or not I'm going to buy that brand new iPad that I probably don't need. So then it becomes a habitual thing that becomes extremely rewarding, and the reward over time is what makes it addictive.
Becoming your own butler leads you to being badass. It's funny because you say that, because I used to do that when I was single, right? I'd set up everything before I went to bed. That's true. I was thinking about that, and I remember waking up going, this is a life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoever set this up for me, thank you.
Yeah. Now I'm just picking up after kids and cleaning up and folding blankets and clothes and wash. And I mean, it's like, I have a wife too, of course, and she does all that stuff too. But yeah, wow, that's incredible, man. Lane, I'm hogging all the time. You want to go for some questions there?
Yeah, no, it's okay. Yeah. I mean, this is all great stuff. And one thing I wanted to ask Chase is, there's a lot of people that are fearful of things that are out of their control. There's conspiracy theories, government, the economy. And then they're also fearful of their specific situation of, I don't have a lot of revenue coming in. I lost my job, or something very internal. So is there a difference between the fear of really outside of your control and stuff that is in your life? And how do you deal with those if they're separate or different?
Yeah. So I think it's important to just pull out a sheet of paper and write down all the things you're scared of and make a column of, and this is important, and it sounds like something we would tell a child to do. But you keep in mind that the same brain that's sitting inside of your dog's skull is actually in ours too. It's the mammalian brain. Like if you put your fingers in your ears, you're pointing at it. That's where it sits. So it sounds like one of these exercises for kids, but we have to figure out ways to trick this brain, and messing with the human brain is what I do. So I'm telling you, if we just take out just a sheet of paper and write down, I can control, I can't control, and list all of our fears and let those fall into those categories, just becoming aware of the fact. There's no, like, I can't say, go take 3 multivitamins and a shot of vodka and everything will go away. We can't get rid of it. But the more we're aware of it, like if we can just become aware of a little bit of this, we get a little firmer grip on the steering wheel. And that really makes a big difference. And a lot of times when we're worried about things in our future, we have to remember that there's a thing inside of our brain called the reticular activation system. This is critical to if you memorize anything, please memorize this. The reticular activation system is a focus driving machine. It's like you're in a dark room. The reticular activation system is your flashlight. It shines your attention and focus on whatever it thinks is really important. And we're the ones who teach it what to call as important. So think about the last time you bought a Honda Accord and you're driving around town and you're like, wow, a lot of people bought Honda Accords just right when I did. But that's not the case. It became important to our brain. So our brain automatically starts searching for exactly what we tell it to search for. So when we're worried about losing money, we're worried about our career, we're telling our brain, find evidence that I'm going to lose money. I need you to search every day for evidence that negative crap is going to happen in my life. We're just like the Honda Accord, how we notice right after we buy something, everybody else is driving it. We're pulling that into the animal part of our brain that can't speak English. We cannot talk to that part of our brain because it's incapable of language. So if we're worried about something, it's important to write it down. So it's not just something ethereal that sits in the back of our head. We have it written on a piece of paper and we're seeing, this is what I'm telling my brain to focus on. So we have to gradually keep steering that thing and keep getting a little firmer grip on the steering wheel to where we're telling that reticular activation system what to look for. Because it's not just noticing things. It's not just like we notice that. Our brain seeks it out. And that's a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm just noticing other Honda Accords. Our brain is looking for it. So if we are worried about loss of money or loss of income or some kind of loss of finance, that's what we're telling our brain. I need you every day to sit in the background and find evidence that bad stuff is happening, find evidence that I'm going to lose money. So when we teach it what to look for, everything changes. And guess what? If we go back, and I'm sorry, this is a drawn out answer, but if we go back to that part of our brain that's in here, actually, it's right in this little area of our brain. It can't speak English. So we can't give it a message. I can't write something on a piece of paper and tell this brain to look for it. We didn't look for Honda Accords because we told it, look for this exact Honda Accord. It was visual. It was imagery. And it's the same way we have to communicate with our dog. So if I'm trying to redirect this animal part of the brain, I need to use a ton of imagery because it cannot speak English. I can't think my way into it without creating massive visual structures in my head. So that's the point where people talk about getting a vision board.
Yeah.
Where we print out all kinds of stuff to look at. And we think that a lot of people will tell you the vision board works because we're connecting with the universe and we're connecting with energy. I'm not sure about that stuff, but I am sure that once we create an image, it's good enough for a dog to understand, then it's good enough for the animal brain. And it's good enough for us to reprogram our thought processes. Because when you buy a flat screen TV or a new car or anything, we think that like, oh, I did the research, I'm looking at the price, but no, This bought the flat screen TV. This is what did it all. We just rationalize it up here in the top human part of our brain.
So it's not what you think. Well, it is what you I guess the thinking part is what pushes it on, and then the animal brain takes over. Look at, like, okay, say let's give a real banal example. I'm sitting here right now going, shit, I need to make money, I need to make money, I need to make money, and I'm constantly saying, oh, that's not going to work, that's not going to work. How do I fix that right now?
Yeah, so we just visualize exactly what you would like to happen. So you sit there just for just a couple of minutes, or look up images and get your brain to focus on something new. So instead of lack, we're focusing on opportunity. And one thing that I teach an extremely advanced influence class for intelligence agencies. And the one way that I can manipulate a person is just mentioning scarcity. Like, my friend just got diagnosed with a terminal illness. The food is running out. There's no more toilet paper in the stores. And just me mentioning scarcity in a conversation is enough to force you into a place where you're making irrational or impulsive decisions. So the moment that we come from a scarcity mindset, we are automatically activating the animal part of our brain that says our village is running out of resources. I need to do something impulsive or possibly irrational, and that's the only way I can save my life. And at that point, we've lost the ability to control where our car's driving.
So we have a question here, actually. Lisa asks, does this mean that making a to-do list is a good habit?
Absolutely. And if I could give you a quick primer on how to do this from a behavioral perspective. If we make a to-do list, go back down and prioritize everything 1 through 4. And the high priority items are what should actually make it to your calendar. Everything else is a good to have. Our high priority items go into a calendar.
So, and I had a follow-up question on the, you make a list, you write down the things you're fearful of, and then you kind of just do the opposite, or you focus on the opposite, the more positive, the more optimistic version. And how do you actually deviate or direct your focus on it? Because there's so much news out there. Do you just take yourself out of it and don't look at it? Or how do you focus on that good intention or the good expectation that you want?
Sure. If you go back to that list, and we'll take this into a little bit deeper part of this brainwashing mentality. If I go back down and let's say I'm worried about economic crisis, then I'm saying, can I control it? Yes or no. So then it's no. And then what is the cost to me if I don't worry about it? Is it going to hurt me? And we just go through this thought process from just a logic standpoint. And next, if I don't worry about this, what cost is it to me? But what's the benefit of not worrying about it? So then we rationally
yourself,
and it's on paper, and it's not something that we can just. I know everybody out there is really smart and really capable, but trying to tell yourself, I'm going to think my way through this is very difficult. It needs to be something we write out on paper. It's a physical exercise that we're bringing into the world. So that helps our brains to understand it. A lot of times we'll watch a YouTube video or a TED Talk, and somebody says, well, do this exercise, or we read a book and it says, do this exercise. And we're like, nah, I can do that in my head. It's way more effective if we don't do that. So we take it out, put it on a piece of paper. Is it helpful? What's the cost of not worrying about this? What's the benefit of not worrying about this?
Man, Chase, solid gold. So you have a giveaway, I believe. Is that true?
Yeah. I've just released a book on Amazon called The Collected Works of Chase Hughes. It's all of my articles, from how to tell when somebody's physically attracted to you to a huge article on brainwashing and mind control stuff. So it's really interesting. It's totally free.
Awesome.
And on Amazon, you just go click on it and download it.
No, I think there's a link somewhere with that Lane.
Okay.
I put it in the speaker page.
Okay, it's on the speaker page. So go to the speaker page, guys and gals, and check it out. I have another question from Samuel Roberto. What do you think about surrounding yourself with like-minded people to hold each other accountable?
Absolutely. I think it's a great idea, and use WhatsApp or get a group together somehow and share your goals. And
Yep.
every goal should have milestones associated with it. And the milestones are our measurement. So if I have one goal, what are the 10 steps that lead up to today in the future? Every milestone. So I can tick it off, just like when we were in school and someone's doing fundraising and they're coloring in that thermometer of how much money they're raising. That should be what I'm showing to my friends and my people in my accountability group. And I just, to quote Jim Rohn, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Right. Well, right now it's my 2 kids and my wife. So, it's
Wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So,
For
okay.
better or for worse. No.
It's just go to our website, the link where you registered and download Chase's free book. Was there anything else you'd like to promote before we say adieu? I know that what you just spoke about would be a fantastic mini course, PDF download or whatever. If you haven't done it, you should probably do it, because I download that sucker right now.
And one thing I do want to say that, Stephen, you are spending time with your family right now, but at the moment, now you're surrounding yourself with everybody in this group, which we are doing on Zoom. We can hang out with positive influences in our life through our technology.
Chase, man, solid gold. What a great start. Always a pleasure to be with you. You're on my podcast already. Just a guy that just is on. I mean, I actually met you while you were still in the military, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so the transition. Yeah. So, man, you've killed it. I mean, rocked and rolled it straight on. I really appreciate you coming on. Lane and I appreciate you, Tom. Thank you so much for being here, Chase. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for sharing your wisdom. Appreciate it.
Guys.
Thanks, Chase.
Have a great one.
Thanks, Tom.